if you don't have a reimbursement plan, it may be that when you qualify for benefits, and you have to have that signed off usually by a physician, and there are some things that you do, then you are just given the $100 a day, and it doesn't matter how you spend it because you don't need to turn in receipts to be reimbursed for. That also gives a lot more flexibility on the qualifications for the person who may be caring for you in a long-term care situation. I could pay my granddaughter to care for me, and she doesn't have a CNA or an RNA credential. We're on a reimbursement program. I may not be in a position to be able to do that. I may need to have certain credentials before that could be a reimbursable expense for me. There's also a difference in care. What is skilled care? It has nothing to do with how sick a patient is. It's usually short term that's being held. It's defined as helping a patient recover from something. It could be a fall. It could be surgery. It could be an accident. But skilled care is usually defined or you're thought of being a relatively short period of time. What is chronic care? Now, chronic care, it's when a patient is not going to show progress. We have recovered, in essence, at a level that we really are not going to go beyond. It also could be at that point where they are declining. It could be a paralysis that is not going to improve, the need for oxygen that is not going to improve. It could be a variety of reasons why that situation is not going to change. Now, when we start looking at some of these other terms that you may see, when we go for this, you need to read the policy. It would be very helpful for you to have assistance with your agent if it is only a long-term care policy, because we need to assure we understand what it would take to trigger the benefits. We also understand what the requirements may be for the caregivers. Can we get that help while the patient is still in the home? Or is a nursing home admission only going to be reimbursed? And I have seen families that have resisted. They did not want to do the nursing home. They have used all the resources they possibly could before they went there. Had they purchased a policy that had the home health care provisions, that would have been a non-issue at that point. You have options as you start to pay for these resources yourself. You could liquidate your retirement accounts. You could liquidate savings accounts or checking accounts. You could decide to sell property and cars. You could end up selling the primary home and renting a smaller space, or building on a space to a family member's home in order to take care of the care. But in all situations, it comes down to the need to liquidate a variety of assets. Now, I'd like to take a minute. I'd like to take a minute when all of this care is going on, and I want to address caregivers. Be kind to caregivers, because someone who is not doing the caregiving is inevitably going to tell them everything that they're doing wrong, although they're not showing up to do it right. Somebody is going to tell that caregiver that they shouldn't be paid. They should just do this out of the goodness of their heart. This is my own little soapbox. A caregiver makes everyone else's life possible the way it is. I want you to think about that. The caregiver who is on call 24/7, or the caregiver who is on call after they get home from working all day and nights and weekends and is taking care of all of this, is making sure that everybody else, their life continues without interruptions, because the caregiver is making sure that your life remains possible. We've got to work with our caregivers, and we need to have respite plans. For some of you, it may be that every weekend a month, we take turns coming in so that person can have a break or a vacation or whatever the case may be. So with our caregivers, and when you're looking around and you're saying, oh, well, my sister Pamela, she's going to take care of all that caregiving. Great. What are you going to do for Pamela who is making your life possible by doing all of the caregiving that either you cannot or you do not want to do. If you think paying Pamela is just not realistic, if we brought anybody else in other than Pamela to do the work, what are they going to charge? It's not unrealistic to be compensating the caregivers in order for the rest of the family to have their life interrupted. And that's my little soapbox. So let's talk a little bit about, well, do you want to buy long-term care insurance for these type of things? Well, that's really up to you. And we have a couple of different ways that we can deal with buying long-term care insurance. There is the traditional long-term care insurance policy that we've been touching on about whether you purchase home health care or you purchase true long-term care coverage. These policies, one of the concerns that I have with them that you should be aware of, we all have budgets, we all have cash flow that we have to work within. Historically, the premiums on your true long-term care policies have been going up on an average, maybe 15 to 20% a year. You may not see that. They may change that, and they may only bring about those raises every 2 to 3 years. So it's a little bit larger number. But for my planning assumptions on cash flow into retirement, if you have a long-term care policy, I believe those premiums are going to go up so that it probably will be doubled by your 10th year. And then in the 20th year, it would even double over that once again. So this is a budgetary issue that you also need to take into account. Now, along with that, very few of those policies have any provision to return any of the premium that has been paid for you, unless you're able to get a rider that says a return of premium on it. In that event that you would never use the proceeds, maybe it's by death or whatever, then you could get that amount refunded back to you or a percentage. It is very much like homeowners insurance, car insurance, health insurance, that if you do not turn in a claim, they do not give you your premium back because you were covered during that time frame. So that's one way that we can go. Another way that you can go is to put your long-term care insurance on a life insurance policy and use that as your basis. Now, the way a long-term care alternative rider on a life insurance policy can work is that, let's pretend that I have a $500,000 life insurance benefit, and we're assuming that I can qualify for the life insurance. If I have a long-term care event, a chronic illness, whatever triggers based on the policy language, they generally will advance about 2% of the policy death benefits per month to pay for long-term or chronic care. On my hypothetical $500,000 policy, that would be $10,000 per month. These benefits are usually structured so they're not going to ask you for receipts to reimburse you. You are responsible for distributing those funds. And when that type of a benefit is triggered, then the premiums on that policy are no longer required. They are suspended. Now, in my example, if I was to put this on life insurance for $500,000 face amount, let's say that I never needed long-term care. Well, of course, my beneficiaries would receive the $500,000 tax-free death benefit. If my second scenario, I qualified, I had a 6-month waiting period, I had a long-term care event, and I pulled, or my representative took $10,000 out of the policy every month for 10 months, and then I passed away, then we take the $500,000 face amount and I deduct from that the $100,000 that I had received as an advance. Now I have a $400,000 death benefit that would go to my heirs. Now, it may be slightly less than that if there are some other costs and things that are built in with triggering this benefit, but you get the idea. Now, what is the third scenario? The third scenario is that after my 6-month waiting period, I qualified for the benefit. They are sending out $10,000 a month, and for 50 months, at the end of that time frame, we have advanced all $500,000 of the policy. But I'm still here. I haven't passed away yet. Well, the $10,000 a month would stop. After it stops, most of those policies have a provision where there is a nominal death benefit. It might be $20,000 or $25,000. Really, that amounts to being a burial policy at that point, because they recognize that the person is still going to need some type of last expenses at that point. So that's one way we can go. There are other policies that are out there that maybe you've got money that you have set aside into a CD or some investments, but it's there and you've kind of mentally earmarked that that's going to go for long-term care. In these situations, and these are with a life insurance company, you may lump sum a significant amount of money, 100, 200,000, 300, whatever the case is. And when you put it in this design of a policy, it will have a life insurance benefit with it, but it will multiply the amount of your deposit, maybe 2 or 3 times in the event of a long-term care. So it has a significant benefit to it. The other option with some of these policies is that if you decide to terminate the policy in a few years, then there is a significant amount of the money that would come back to you that you would get as a refund at that point. So we've got a couple of different options on how we can even fund the long-term care policies if that is the route that we decide to do. Of course, in a perfect world, I really want you to start looking at some of these issues when you're 45 to 55. In a perfect world, if we could get you to address this when you're most likely healthy, you're younger, and we can get it paid for before you ever go into retirement, then we can eliminate that expense from your retirement budget. It's going to be less expensive over time, and it's going to take that off of your plate as one of the things that you need to think about in retirement. I want to circle back and I want to talk to you about that caregiver again. Let's spend just another little minute about caregivers. One of the statistics I found, and I look at a lot of statistics that helps me make decisions and planning for clients, is that caregivers between the ages of 66 and 96 have a 63% higher mortality rate than non-caregivers of the same age. Do you know why? It's because we've worn them out. Don't let this be you. This one really hits home for all of us. 69% of caregivers give little or no consideration to their financial situation before they become a caregiver. Now, what can often happen in a caregiving situation is someone exits the workforce. When they exit the workforce, they're losing their wages if they're not being compensated. If they had a 401k or anything like that, they're losing their matching contributions to go into their retirement. They are not getting wages that could have an impact on how much their Social Security benefit is for the rest of their life. They are most likely paying for some things out of pocket that, if they are not being reimbursed, are also tapping into more of their resources. Families, it is essential when we have caregivers in the family, we need to get them with financial advisors, and we need to set them up so that in their future, they are not having their financial future jeopardized while they're being a caregiver. And remember some of my comments about how a caregiver, their life makes your life possible as it is. We need to make sure that while your financial future is being secured, that we are not funding that on the back of the caregiver who we are setting up for an impoverished future or a less than secure financial future because they are taking on the role of caregiving. One of the other alternatives, whether you do any type of long-term care or not, that we should address is living abroad. Now, this is a segment of long-term care that is growing at this point. There are a lot of locations throughout the world that securing full-time help or in facilities is much less expensive than what is available in the U.S. There are families that are picking up roots, for example. There's one very popular location that is in a beautiful valley and a lake area in Mexico. They have facilities that are full-time care, and you're talking about $1,800 to $2,000 a month. The families, maybe it is, let's say it's a daughter, her son, and they've got 2 children. They are relocating to Mexico. They are setting up their life there. They're figuring out how to work or doing some online things or whatever, or they're using some of their parents' resources. Philippines is another place. I mean, there are others. There's some things that are in Panama. This is something you could look into. If you have the right dynamics, this could be a way to have more than enough proceeds to take care of your parents at the level of care that you desire, enable you to be close to the family, and protect the financial future of both generations at that time. So I want to throw it out there. You may not think of this as your first choice, but if the level of care in the US is going to cost you $6,000 to $10,000 or more, would you be better off to relocate abroad for a period of time, which may be a couple of years or more, depends upon, the caregiving and the patient. Does it make sense to preserve the family wealth and to provide the level of care to move to another country for a few years, utilize those care services, or utilize the low cost, of $5 or $6 an hour to bring someone in to be a full-time caregiver credentialed out of another country in order to deal with the long-term care crisis? Now, some of you, if you're dealing with 2 parents at the same time with these type of situations, again, you have to act almost as a fiduciary on whoever is the person who is managing the finances. But looking abroad could be a solution for some of the long-term care issues that you're facing. Here's an idea that some families have done. They have taken the family members, and before they have left, they have gotten them TEFL instructor training. What is that? That is the ability for them to teach English as a foreign language, and they are accredited. These are positions that they could do online for a period of time. They could do it during the day. They could have a flexible schedule. So this could be a way that an individual could earn an income abroad and not violate any type of work restrictions that they have for foreigners. So this is a solution some families have come up with, along with other trainings that are available or other jobs that work with an internet base. Maybe you become a virtual assistant where you use your highly specialized skills in order to support other businesses on a full or a part-time basis. Maybe you become a gig worker. There are all types of options for that to tap into the skills that you already have if we need to make an income while we're living abroad. All right. We can't end this without showing you where there's a fabulous free resource that I found some time ago. Now, AARP has some wonderful online resources, and they do address some of the issues that go along with long-term care. Now, with that, AARP has a free guide, and it is aarp.org/prepare to care. One of the things I really liked about this particular pages is you will go in, you will see caregiver guides. It's an excellent resource, and it's in multiple languages. So for those who are struggling, or if you're looking at different dynamics, this is one of those wonderful free resources that I would highly encourage you to tap and look into. You do not have to be an AARP member in order to access type of a resource. And there are some other ones there, but that's a free resource that I wanted to leave with you. I'm Amy Rose Herrick. I'm a profit building specialist, and I help families and business owners make the most of their assets, and sometimes during really difficult situations. If you enjoyed this presentation, I'd like you to click the like button, and please put some comments down. We'd love to respond to your comments. Please click the subscribe button. That helps us a lot on the channel. And in addition to that, as new topics are coming out, you'll know that those are in your queue to watch, so you don't have to miss a topic. Click the subscribe button. Also, go back and look at some of the other titles. They are all different, and we're here to help you. Thank you so much for being with us, and don't forget to click the subscribe button.